Truong stood in the middle of the market yard, his eyes blank like a still, quiet lake. He couldn't understand why his chest suddenly tightened until a small figure rushed toward him and threw her arms around him. Tieu nu. She was shaking, sobbing, holding him as if letting go for even a second would make her whole world collapse. No one expected Truong's reaction. He placed a hesitant hand on her shoulder, froze, then asked in a confused, uneasy voice, "Do I know you?" In that moment, it felt like Tieu nu's heart dropped straight into a void. The man who once promised to return to her and their child was now looking at her like a complete stranger. Why has he forgotten everything? What tore their past away from him? And will this reunion heal the wounds still bleeding inside them? Or open an even deeper heartbreak? Stay with the story. The truth is closer than ever. The morning market in the countryside was buzzing in its usual way. People calling out prices, motorbikes rumbling knives, hitting chopping boards at the meat stall, kids chattering and begging for snacks. But today, beneath all those familiar sounds, there was something softer, more fragile, like fate taking a slower breath. Truong walked through the market quietly, a bag of groceries hanging from his shoulder. His memory still hadn't recovered. Large parts of his past were gone. Images of his old life, his family, the people he once cared about, all blurry like smoke. Yet one thing he felt clearly, something inside him was missing. A space he couldn't name. His mother had told him, "Just trust it. One day you'll remember." But he kept wondering, who am I? Who did I love? What promises did I make? There was only one constant. Every time the headaches came, a vague image of a girl appeared in his mind. He couldn't see her face, just a small figure with long hair, sad eyes, warm and gentle. He didn't know who she was, but his heart reacted like it knew her. That morning, as he walked past the last vegetable stall, he suddenly froze. Among the baskets, the green of the produce, the noise of people calling out, he saw a silhouette he'd seen in those unclear dreams. A thin young woman, belly round with pregnancy, arranging cucumbers. Her long hair fell over her shoulder, her brown shirt simple and worn. The morning sun hit her face, showing dark circles under her eyes, as if she had cried for far too long. Truong stood completely still. His heart slammed in his chest, not because he was shocked, but because she felt familiar, like he had walked toward her thousands of times before, like every part of him already knew who she was, like his soul recognized her long before his memory could. He took a few steps, then stopped. His legs suddenly felt too heavy to move. Tieu nu was unpacking a basket of cucumbers when her hands froze. A strange chill ran up her spine, making her look up, and she saw him. He was standing not far away, clothes damp with morning dew, face thinner than she remembered, and those eyes, still the same eyes as before, warm, calm, heartbreakingly familiar. She turned into stone. Then her whole body trembled. The basket fell to the ground, cucumbers rolling everywhere. She didn't think. She couldn't hold back. She only knew one thing. He was alive. He was here, right in front of her. Tears rushed out before she could stop them. She ran straight toward him like a child finding someone she had lost for years. And when she reached him, she threw her arms around him, holding him tight, as if letting go would make him disappear again. Truong froze. He was stunned. His hands hung awkwardly in the air, unsure what to do. But his heart, it pounded harder than ever. Her shaky breath rested against his chest. Her pregnant belly pressed against his side. Her whole body trembled in his arms. In that moment, Truong didn't need memories. His body, his heart, had already recognized her. He slowly lifted his hand, hesitant, shaky, and placed it on her shoulder. An instinctive reaction he didn't understand. She cried even harder, the cry of months of waiting, of feeling abandoned, of hope that nearly died, of a love she carried alone. People at nearby stalls stared, whispering, but tieu nu couldn't hear anything. She just buried her face in his chest, clutching his shirt like it was the last thing keeping her alive. Truong tilted his head slightly. A scent passed by, warm, familiar, like new rice sunlight, and something gentle he couldn't describe. He didn't remember her, but his body remembered. His soul remembered. For a split second, he saw flickers of something, a warm yellow light, a wooden house, a pair of soft hands touching his cheek. But the images vanished just as quickly. Finally, Truong wrapped his arms around her, lightly unsure, but completely instinctive. His hand rested on her head in a way that felt far too familiar for someone with no memories. Tieu nu lifted her face, eyes swollen, voice shaking. I missed you. I missed you so much. Why did you take so long to come back? Her words stabbed straight through his chest. He opened his mouth, but no answer came. A strange tightness choked him guilt, even though he didn't know what he had done wrong. Do I know you? He whispered, the words broken. The question hit her like a blade. Her eyes widened. Her lips trembled. Then she broke, tears pouring down, like everything inside her finally collapsed. She understood now. She understood everything. He didn't remember. Not her. Not their love. Not the nights they held each other. Not the promises. Not their child growing inside her. Everything was gone from him. Tieu nu grabbed her head and cried uncontrollably, like her entire world had shattered. Truong panicked. He didn't know what to do, didn't know what to apologize for, didn't know how to ease her pain, but he knew one thing. This girl mattered to him, deeply, painfully, even if his mind was empty. He reached up and wiped her tears with the clumsy gentleness of someone who didn't understand anything, but still felt everything. She cried harder. She leaned her forehead against his chest, gripping his shirt tightly. You don't remember, but I do. And remembering alone hurts more than anything. Truong wanted to hold her tighter, wanted to say something, anything, but the words died in his throat. He just placed his hand on her head again, holding her like a memory his heart refused to let go. And in that moment, in the middle of the crowded market with all the noise around them, only one truth echoed clearly. Two people who once loved each other deeply had finally met again, but only one of them remembered and the other didn't. A reunion filled with joy and tragedy. And this is where the real story begins. The noise of the market slowly faded behind them as Truong guided tieu nu away from the crowd. His hand hovered near her arm, not fully touching, not fully pulling back, either like he was scared she might fall apart again, yet afraid to cross a boundary he didn't understand. Tieu nu's sobs had softened into quiet, shaky breaths. Her fingers still clung to the corner of his sleeve, not gripping hard, but enough for him to feel every tremor running through her body. Each step she took felt unstable, like the ground beneath her hadn't stopped shaking since the moment he said he didn't remember her. They moved toward a quieter alley behind the market, an area where the morning sun slipped gently through wooden roofs, where only a few vendors prepared soup broth for the lunchtime rush. The air smelled like fresh herbs, boiled bones, and the faint sweetness of steamed corn. Truong found a small wooden bench in front of a closed shop and guided her to sit. "Tieu nu, please," he said softly, unsure if the words were right. "You should sit. You're shaking." She lowered herself, slowly, one hand on her belly, the other covering her mouth as though trying to hold in another sob. Her eyes were still swollen, her eyelashes wet. He stayed standing for a moment, lost, unsure what distance he should keep. His mind was blank, just a fog of confusion. But his chest felt painfully full, like his heart was pushing against his ribs, aching for a reason he didn't understand. After a few seconds, he finally lowered himself onto the bench beside her, close enough to catch her if she leaned, but leaving her room to breathe. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then she whispered, voice cracking, Why did you forget everything? Why me? Why us?" He swallowed hard. "I don't know. I wish I did." Her tears began to fall again, silently this time, tracing slow paths down her cheeks. She looked at him, really looked at him, as if hoping a spark of recognition might suddenly ignite in his eyes. But there was nothing, only confusion, sympathy, and something warm he couldn't name. She let out a long, trembling breath. "Truong, I have something I need to tell you. Something important." He nodded slowly. "Okay, I'm listening." Her hand found her stomach again this time, not out of pain, but like she was protecting something fragile. He followed the movement with his eyes not fully understanding yet. Or maybe he was afraid to understand. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. It's yours." Truong blinked. "What?" She looked down, one hand resting gently on her belly. The sunlight caught the curve of it, round, firm, unmistakably carrying life. "The baby," she whispered. "This baby is yours." Truong's breath caught in his throat. He froze, staring at her belly, like it was something he'd never seen in his entire life. His heart hammered against his ribs. The world seemed to tilt for a second. He opened his mouth, closed. It opened again. Nothing came out. Tieu nu kept talking, even though her voice broke every few words. "You didn't leave me, Truong. You didn't abandon us. Something happened to you. Something terrible. And I've been trying to find you for months. I searched everywhere. Every village, every clinic, every rumor about a man who looked like you, but couldn't remember anything." Her shoulders shook. She covered her face with both hands. "I was so scared. I thought you died. I thought you were gone forever." He felt something sharp twist inside his chest, a pain so deep it almost made him bend forward. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I know you didn't," she said quickly, shaking her head. "I know you didn't run away. I know something happened to you. But that didn't make the nights shorter. That didn't make the waiting easier." She looked straight into his eyes. "You promised you'd come home. You promised you'd be there when our baby was born." Truong's chest tightened. His hands felt cold. He pressed one hand against the bench, grounding himself, because he suddenly felt like he might float away or collapse under the weight of her words. I don't remember any of that," he said, voice trembling with guilt. "I know," she whispered, "and that's what hurts." They sat there in silence again, the kind that feels heavy, painful, and too full of everything no one wants to say. Finally, Truong found the courage to ask, "How far along? How many months?" She swallowed hard. "Almost 7. He inhaled sharply. 7 months. 7 months of growing waiting, crying, hoping. 7 months without him. He looked at her belly again. Really looked this time, and something inside him shifted. It wasn't memory. It wasn't recognition. But it was something fierce, something instinctive, something that made his hand twitch, like it wanted to reach out. He hesitated. Can I touch?" Tieu nu's eyes widened, surprised, emotional. She nodded slowly. He raised his hand, moving carefully, as if he was afraid his touch might hurt her. When his palm rested gently against her belly, he felt warmth. Real warmth. A life. His life, even if his mind didn't remember it. He sucked in a breath. Something fluttered beneath his fingers, soft, faint, like a tiny push. His eyes widened. It moved. Tieu nu covered her mouth, a soft sob escaping. "The baby knows you. Even if you don't remember, the baby does." He kept his hand there, frozen, yet trembling. Something deep inside him responded, something primal, protective, overwhelming. But the next words slipped out before he could stop them. "Are you sure it's mine?" The moment he said it, he regretted it. The way her face crumpled told him exactly how much the question hurt. She didn't yell. She didn't get angry. She didn't lash out. Her voice was quiet. Too quiet. "Truong, you were the only one I ever loved. The only one I ever let close. How could you even think?" "I'm sorry," he whispered, immediately eyes burning. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean I'm just scared. I don't know anything. I don't know who I used to be." She nodded slowly, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "I know you're scared. I know this is too much. But I'm scared too. I've been scared for months." She placed her hand over his, letting their palms rest together on her belly. "I'm carrying our child Truong, and I've been doing it alone." His throat tightened painfully. He couldn't breathe for a second. "Did I treat you well?" he asked, voice raw. "Before all this, before I forgot, everything was good to you?" The question seemed to break her completely. Her face softened with a kind of painful tenderness. "You loved me," she said, "more than anything." He blinked, stunned. "I did." "You did," she whispered. "And I loved you too. We were building a home together. You were fixing the roof the day before you disappeared. You talked to the baby every night, even when I was only a few weeks pregnant. You said you wanted to hold the baby the moment they were born. You said you wanted a girl. You said." Her voice cracked, and she pressed her lips together to stop herself from sobbing. Truong felt like the wind had been knocked out of him. "I don't remember," he murmured, voice shaking. "I don't remember any of it. But when you say it, it feels like something inside me is moving. Like something is trying to wake up." Hope flickered in her eyes. "Then let it. Don't fight it." "I'm not," he whispered. "I swear I'm not. I feel lost." She took a slow breath. "Then let me help you find your way back." He looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time since he woke from his injury, he felt the edges of something familiar. Not a memory, but a feeling, a pull, a connection, a sense that this woman, this child, were pieces of a life that mattered deeply to him. "Tieu nu," he whispered. "I want to try. I want to remember. For you. For the baby." She covered her mouth with both hands as her shoulders began to shake again. But this time, her tears weren't only from pain. "They told me you were dead," she whispered. "People told me to move on. They said no one could survive what you went through. But I kept waiting. I kept believing you were somewhere. And I was," he said softly. "Just not myself." She nodded, crying harder. "But you're here now. That's all that matters." He reached out, hesitant, unsure, and gently brushed the tears from her cheek. It felt natural, like a motion he had done 1,000 times before. "Don't cry," he murmured. "Please don't cry anymore." "You don't remember me," she said, voice breaking. "No," he admitted, "but I remember this feeling." She blinked, confused. "What feeling?" He placed his hand over hers on her belly again, his voice trembling. "That you matter." Her breath hitched. "That you mattered before," he continued, "and you matter now. Even if my mind is empty, my chest feels full when I look at you." Tieu nu sobbed once, loud, fragile, before leaning forward and pressing her forehead against his shoulder. She cried into the fabric of his shirt, clutching him tightly. He didn't pull away. He didn't freeze this time. He wrapped an arm around her, slow at first, then firmer, as something deep inside him responded to her pain. They stayed like that for a long time, long enough for the market noise to fade into distant echoes, long enough for the morning breeze to carry the scent of herbs and earth around them. When she finally pulled back, her face was blotchy, her eyes red, but there was something steadier in her expression. "Truong," she whispered, "will you come home with me just to talk? There's so much I need to tell you. About us. About the baby. About everything." He hesitated, not because he didn't want to, but because fear still gnawed at the edges of his heart. "What if I hurt you again?" he asked quietly. "What if I can't remember no matter how hard I try?" She shook her head. "Then we start again. From the beginning." He stared at her, at the bruised hope in her eyes, at the trembling strength she still carried at the child inside her, waiting to be born. And he nodded. "Okay," he whispered. "Let's start again." She let out a shuddering breath, half relief, half heartbreak. "Thank you." He stood and offered her his hand, not out of obligation, but something gentler, almost protective. When she placed her hand in his, He held it carefully, aware of every small tremor in her fingers. They walked down the quiet alley together, and for the first time since waking up in a stranger's house months ago, Truong didn't feel lost. He didn't feel whole, but he felt something new, a direction, a pull, a beginning. As they reached the edge of the alley, he glanced at her belly again. "Do you know if it's a boy or a girl?" he asked awkwardly. She smiled through her tears, a small, cracked smile, but real. "You always said you wanted a girl," she whispered. He blinked slowly. "I did. You said you wanted her to have my eyes." She continued, voice softening in your smile. Truong slowly exhaled. The warmth in his chest spread, almost painful in its intensity. "Maybe I still do," he murmured. Her hand tightened around his, and together, one remembering everything, one remembering nothing, they stepped into the sunlight. The real journey had finally begun.